Danny here. Officially day 2 of the video series Naptime Chat, but it is very much a bedtime chat today because we were all over the place with naps today. Ivy was in a bit of a funny routine. She's actually got 3 teeth coming through at once, which are her first teeth, which is super late because she's 17 months old. So she was a bit upset and this didn't happen. So she's gone down for the night and here we are. Chatting about self-love and self-acceptance. And if you haven't seen already, I made a free guide just for anyone starting out in like the self-development healing kind of space and wanting to know where to get started with it. And I was writing a bit about the whole idea of self-love and loving yourself, accepting yourself and that kind of thing. And I just wanted to share in a video as well that it really does come down to self-compassion. So when I first kind of started looking at all this, self-development stuff and going on my own journey, the messages that I saw were very much around, loving yourself and being like your biggest cheerleader and kind of being super enthusiastic in the love that you have for yourself and all that stuff. And coming from the place that I was at, which was a place of not having a lot of self-love, that felt really big for me and it felt like too much. And so as I went through kind of learning it, trying to put it into practice in my own life, I realized that it actually comes down to self-compassion. And I wanted to explain the difference between the two. So when we talk about self-compassion, it's really about being kind to ourselves, right? And often, I think probably everyone has a voice inside our heads that tells us that we're not good enough, we're not doing it right, we're stuffing everything up. We have that mean kind of inner voice. And self-love, it kind of comes in, like people explain it as having this inner cheerleader that instead of going, saying to yourself, you're not doing it well enough, your inner cheerleader pipes up and it's like, oh, go you're the best, you rock. And self-compassion kind of sits in the middle of those two, right? So it's not the mean, harsh, super critical voice, but it's also not that kind of almost fake positive cheerleader voice, because that didn't vibe with me and I know that it doesn't vibe with my clients. Self-compassion sits in the middle in that it's like, yeah, you're human, you're doing the best you can, you're fine, you've got this, everything will work out fine. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Don't stress out about the little things, like everything's going to be okay and you're okay. And so self-compassion is kind of this much gentler approach to, I guess, being on the path to loving yourself, but it's really about being kinder to yourself. And it's often the way that I kind of explain it to my clients is when you start listening to that inner voice that you have that tells you that you're not good enough and all those horrible things that you say to yourself, would you say those to your best friend or your child or a loved one? And when you can reframe it in that way, you will realize how harsh and critical you're being of yourself, and then you can start to change that voice. So if you're being really harsh and critical on yourself and you recognize that you wouldn't talk that way to a loved one, then reframe that. What would I say to a loved one in my situation? What kind of words would I use? What kind of language would I use? And what would I want to kind of give them? And then give that to yourself. So compassion, as I said, is really about being kind to yourself. So rather than kind of having this sense of undying, unconditional love for yourself, which feels really big when you're coming from the opposite, you can actually just start with being kind to yourself and build up to a place of self-love rather than trying to start with self-love. I hope this is making sense. I'll just see if there's any comments coming up. Cool. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. If you haven't seen my PDF guide, just hop onto my Facebook page and there's a link there You don't need to put in your email or anything. It's literally just go on the website and download it yourself. And it really is designed to be a starting place for anyone that's wanting to, I guess, go on a healing journey, delve into some growth and self-development, and is feeling kind of overwhelmed with where to start. The first part of it explains some of the main kind of themes and terms that you'll hear in like the self-development growth area. Some of the words that you might not be so familiar with. It explains how the brain works and why your subconscious mind is so important and why we need to work with that part of your brain to create lasting change. So that's the first half, kind of explaining the background of it. And then the second half of the PDF is really looking at what actions can you take to start creating change. There's some resources in there, like links to resources. There's my favorite book recommendations. There's like explanations of, I guess, the most popular modalities, like kinesiology, like tapping, counseling, timeline therapy, like those kind of top modalities, what they're all about, what they're good for, how they work in a nutshell, and how you can use some of them on your own as well through YouTube, through online resources and stuff like that. So first part is explaining the background, and the second part is really like, okay, let's take action. Where can you get started to start creating some changes in your mindset, in your subconscious, and as a result in your life. So that is, I can actually pop a link in the comments below, but it is on my Facebook page as well. And if you are just getting started out in kind of learning more about yourself, getting to know yourself better, self-development, self-growth, healing from your past and that kind of thing, I truly do believe that self-compassion is the biggest gift you can give to yourself through that whole journey, even throughout the journey as you're learning and figuring it out along the way. The ability to be kind to yourself, to be patient with yourself throughout that whole process is really going to help you throughout your journey. So thank you for showing up live with me. I will be back tomorrow for another nap time chat. Hopefully it's an actual nap and not her bedtime. But yeah, let me know in the comments any questions. If you're watching later, please let me know, and we can have a chat in the comments, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.